Hello guys, back again after a long time. I've been busy with a lot of SIP trunk migrations as some of the service providers are now asking customers to migrate to SIP trunk at the end of this year. So I have been doing a lot of SIP migration. So I thought of sharing some important information, when you need to go to SIP. And I thought of, giving you a very basic introduction about what how does a SIP invite looks like and what are the contents inside a SIP. So I thought of giving you just some informations because there have been a lot of learnings from my side. So I have been searching at a lot of places, for example, some videos and some documents from Cisco's documents, for example, because I have been working with Cisco. So I was thinking about, how you connect the Cube hardware to the service providers environment. How do you connect that and everything? And it was really difficult to find such documents. And even if you find some documents, you have to spend a lot of days to understand, what is really needed by the service provider and what is needed by Cisco and how do you connect the interfaces together. Maybe in my next videos, I'll definitely make a short video of 5-10 minutes and what are the basic requirements in case you need to connect um, or a SIP trunk to Cisco Cube or a router, what are really the physical parts that are needed. But for now, let you understand just the basic, what is a SIP, what is a SIP invite, what are the contents inside a SIP invite, which look like, and all the things. Okay, so what is a SIP basically? So I don't want to tell you that it's okay. It's called, yeah, everyone knows it's a session initiation protocol, but what actually is a SIP? So SIP is basically it's an application, or you can say it's a protocol, signaling protocol that uses an offer and answer. So, but it doesn't describe inside this offer and answer model what content can be used as an offer, what description can be used for an offer, or what description can you use for an answer. Okay, so basically, for example, I offer someone a service. So he has to answer with a yes or no. Okay, I accept your service. I don't accept your service, right? If I accept your service, these are my terms and conditions. So I will offer my terms and conditions for my service. And in response, I will receive an answer to that offer. Okay, these are the terms and services that I accept. Okay, so basically, this is how the SIP signaling protocol works. Now, how does a first SIP invite look like? If you have a SIP, okay, you have a TCP signaling. If you know a TCP signaling protocol, there is a three-way handshake happening between the two endpoints or the two terminating endpoints, right? So how does a SIP invite look like, basically? So SIP invite like this with a lot of lines, maybe more than 50 lines. It consists of a simple text, and then you will see a lot of lines like invite, via, from, to. By seeing, you can say, okay, it's a SIP invite. But just to make sure, a SIP invite and a re-invite, they both look one and the same, okay? So how do you differentiate a re-invite and an invite? So I will tell you about that when we talk about a re-invite. I'm thinking about making a small series of videos, maybe 5 or 10, and I'll give you an overview to all the beginners who want to learn about SIP protocol. Okay, so this is how the complete uh, uh, invite look like. Okay, so it's not the standard format. You can see a lot of other stuffs inside that. It's not only this way that you can say, okay, this is how the SIP invite should look like. You will see a lot of other things. All right. So now, do you think a SIP can alone handle this protocol or media negotiation or media exchange between the two devices. So SIP is not only a protocol that will be used in a voice over IP environment. You will definitely need another protocol that's called as an SDP. Okay, that's a session description protocol. So both are the application layer protocol. So basically, if you refer to the RFC, so I have just copied this definition from the RFC 4566, which implements session description protocol. And it says it's an application layer protocol for creating, modifying, and terminating sessions, so such as internet conferences, internet telephone calls, and multimedia distribution. Just used to create the sessions, they also carry the session description. Allow the participants to agree between a set of compatible media types. So what are the kind of codecs? What are the kinds of media sessions? Do you support audio? Do you support video? All these things. And these session descriptions formatted using SDP. So for example, I will say, I will only support G711 ULAW. My telephone will only support G711 ULAW. Okay, my telephone will only support audio, right? My telephone doesn't support DTMF, for example. Okay, so these are the things that you can write inside the session description. The SIP, and with SIP comes an SDP message. Okay, so SIP is responsible for, you can say, signaling, and then SDP, what it does, it only provides the description. I have a Jabber on my side, I have a soft client on my side. Okay, my Jabber will send, or is capable of these things. No, it will just write the description. It is not responsible for controlling the media types and everything. Okay, it is not responsible for to be specific. It is not responsible for negotiating in the two endpoints. Okay, and when used with SIP, the offer answer model provides a limited framework for negotiation using SDP. Okay, and how is the format of an SDP inside a complete message of a SIP? So it's incorrect to say inside a SIP message, but I will say inside a SIP invite message. Okay, how does it looks like? So it is like on the left side, you will always have a type, and on the right side of the SDP description or the session description, you will have a value for that type. Okay, so well, type must be exactly one case character, and the value is like G711 U law, G711 A law, G729 R8, ILBC codex, for example. So it's a set of all the characters that will value, and on the left side it will be a type. Okay, so let me show you something. So for example, this, you see that C is equal to IN. So C is the type, and in IP4 is the value. So B is the bandwidth type, and equals to, on the right side, you have a value of that. So if you see it clearly, you see space between these two value and the type, right? So V is equals to 0. What it means is V is nothing but a version. So what kind of version it is? So which version are we talking about? Message or a SIP invite. This V0 is nothing but the version of an SDP. So if you see, for example, let me show you the invite again. So this is the complete invite, starting from the invite until A is equal to FMTP. It's a complete SIP. And then here you will see something written as SIP/2.0 at the first line, at the invite line, and then there is another V is equals to 0. So SIP/2.0 is the SIP version. What kind of version are you using for SIP messaging? Okay. And then here V is equal to 0 is the version. It's the what kind of version are you using description. Okay, so I'll not talk about all the values on the left, but my presentation, the value and what they really mean. Okay, so very important one. For example, in the session description that you see is C is equals to IN and then IP4 and then some IP address. Okay, so C is nothing but a connection, and it's a part of a SDP description. Okay, session description. IN is nothing but internet. IP4 is the type of IP network type. So it's an IPv4 addressing type. And then the address at which, from which the source media is coming and where the media should be destined for. So the destination for the RTP media. Okay. So this is the value that is specified under the C is equals to format in the session description. That is a part of SIP invite message. Okay. So descriptions. So there are 4 or 3 types of description. So first is a session description. Then there is something called as a time description. And then there is something called as a media description if present inside a message. Okay. So basically, what is inside a session description? So session description says, okay, what is the version for the session description that I'm using? And who is the originator and the session identifier? And then what is the session name? So for example, in this example SIP call, you will see that S is equals to SIP call. If I should be able to show you here. Yeah, you see, S is equal to SIP call. That means the session name, it can be anything. So for Cisco says, okay, when there is a call between 2 devices, I will say it's a SIP call. It depends on the PBXs, what they want to describe the session as. Okay, so it's depending on different PBXs, whatever you want to describe it. Mostly I haven't seen SIP call when you have a VoIP call over there. Okay, or sometimes I think a via phone or something as well. All right. And then, so these are the session descriptions, a lot of them. You can go through all of them with this RFC 4566. So I know it's not possible to read all of them together, but maybe sometimes you read it, some key things, and then you will be able to find out the information about the session description parameters. Okay. Then there is something called as a time description inside. So the time since the session is active, and then how many times it has repeated, 0 or more repeat times, R is equals to. Okay, I haven't seen a lot of time R. Yeah, T I have seen. So T is usually 0. That means it can be, the call can be is valid for infinite number of times. It doesn't has to end. For example, here you see T is equals to 0, 0. Yeah, and then there is something called as a media description. So media description is something very famous. People say that M line, what is in your M line? You know, so M line usually describes, I am offering, for example, M is equals to audio or M is equals to video, right? And then this is my bandwidth. This is defined by B. There are a lot of A lines. So if I have M line, there has to be an A line associated with this. So M is equals to audio, and then different supported codecs, and then it will define what have you defined in the M line. So in my case, for example, if I go here, it says M is equals to audio 26456. It's a port number, and then it says it's an RTP. It defines, so 908.18.101, it's the codec types. It is supported, and then if you see for every M line that I said, you will have an A line. So for example, it says the first priority is to codec 9, RTP map 9, and it is mapped to G722 codec. And then it gives a 8 kbps bandwidth to that, okay, 8000 bits per second. And then you have RTP map 0. And what is RTP map 0? It is mapping to PCM ULAW, G711 ULAW call. Okay. Then there is RTP map 8. It's a G711A law codec. So that's a third priority that I'm offering. Okay. So, and then it says, okay, RTP map 101, what is this DTMF event that phone? All right. And then FMTP, what kind of DTMF tones do I support? I support 0 to 9 and then A to F. Okay, 0 to 15, or sometimes I have seen 1 to 16 and not 0 to 15. So it's different for different PBXs or providers that they support. Okay. And then, so these are the session descriptions that I was talking about. So basically, what is the difference between a SIP and SDP? So what SIP does is it or initiates and modifies and terminates the sessions. Okay. And SDP, the session description protocol, for describing the media within the SIP session. Okay. So for example, if you see here, so it has described the media here, M is equals to audio, and then, the port numbers, and then the type of codecs that it has to offer, right? That the device has to offer. All right. And then, so there are basically 4 parts inside this SIP message. So if you see my SIP message, this complete SIP message. So this complete SIP message has 4 parts inside it. So these are the very, very important parts that we should remember if we have to, understand the SIP message. So the first part is the invite. Okay. So for example, in my, it's first line that starts with invite and then space SIP colon and then the phone number at the IP address 192.168.170.6 and the port number. So the famous SIP port 5060. If it's a secure SIP, it will be 5061 TCP or UDP. Mostly the providers will say, okay, TCP is a secure way of communications. It's better that you use TCP and not UDP. And then it has a SIP version. So in this case, it's SIP version 2.0. All right. So this is the exact first line that you will see in my first SIP message. So invite SIP the phone number at IP address. So it's not always that you will have an IP address. It could also be a domain, for example, at collaboration.com, So it doesn't have to be always an IP address. It can be a domain, a host version as well. Okay. So it's like user at host. So it could be collaboration at test.com, for example. Okay, so it's a request URI. It's called as a request URI. The first line is always called as a request URI of the SIP invite message. Okay, then you will have SIP header. So there are 2 types of headers. Okay, so I already talked about headers, but there are also SIP headers. So what are the SIP headers? So if you look at the SIP message, the lines that start from the second line are all the SIP headers. For example, the via header, the from header. So from header tells me from where am I getting the call. Okay, so it says collaboration phone number at the IP address of the user agent client. And then where am I sending the call to? So the destination phone number and at the IP address, for example. Okay. Then what is the date and time when the call has been initiated? What is the call ID? So call ID, basically it's a mix of 4 parameters. And which makes this call ID a unique call ID for each dialogue. Okay, so basically, what is a dialogue? And there is something called as a transaction. So I'll talk about these dialogues and transactions as we move ahead during our sessions. And then there is something called as user agent. So who is the user agent? Is it a server? Is it a client? Because there is something called as a UAS inside a SIP, that's a user agent server, and then UAC, that's user agent client. So client is someone who will send a request, that's UAC, and the server is someone who will receive a request, that's called as a UAS. Okay, so this can interchange between devices. It's not like it is um, permanent, that if this is a SIP communication, this has to be a server and this has to be a client, endpoints or PBXs or whatever. It's not like that. So anyone can be a server, anyone can be a client inside a SIP transaction. Okay, and then it will tell you the sequence. So how many invites it has already sent and what is the number of invite that is basically the call is using for a C sequence. Okay, and then there are some things important when you do some practical implementations. For example, pre-asserted identity, remote party identity. But I don't want to talk about all these things. I just want to keep it as simple as possible for now. We'll do it afterwards about this. Okay. And then these are the session descriptions. So these are the SIP headers that I was talking about right now. And these are the SDP headers. So SDP headers I have already talked about. So version, originator, and then what is the session name, SIP call, where has to be the call sent to, and the bandwidth and the time, what is the M line. So M line describes the media. So it can be, I think, maximum 5 M lines can be described inside a SIP message according to, I think, RFC 3261. If I'm wrong, please do let me know. So it cannot be more than 5 M lines that you can define inside a SIP message. Okay, but with every M line, there has to be an A line. Okay, because you see there's something called as 908.18.101. Maybe the remote party doesn't understand this, so you have to map this RTP maps to the codecs. Okay. All right. So this is it, how a SIP invite would look like, and this was your first SIP message that you guys had a look today. Whoever is starting to learn SIP, it's not too late, but all the organization have started to implement SIP. It is always important to have it. In case you have any questions about SIP messagings or how you implement it in a queue, how do you troubleshoot? If you want to get some pointers, do feel free to come back to me or post it in a group. Get some very important suggestions from different guys in the group. We have a couple of CCIEs in our group. So I am as well a CCIE right now. I have completed my CCIE in last month. So I have been working a lot. I have been doing a couple of implementations as well. So for the SIP providers. So I think it's a good chance for you guys to learn from all of us, and then we share the knowledge together, learn together. And if you want to get some more information about how does and everything, if you want to go really deep into it, then you can just use Wireshark and you will exactly see how a SIP invite will look like. It's exactly the same format, I will say, and not format, format, but not same descriptions. It can be a lot of more descriptions. So learn the RFCs, go through the RFCs. Any questions, and I'm here to share informations from my side. All right. Have a nice evening. Bye-bye.